right to colonize the area. The Germans founded this city and set out in search of El Dorado, the legendary city of gold. And they didn't find it, and Spain resumed its territorial claims. Did the natives resist? Yes, and nobly and bravely they fought, but the Spanish proved too powerful an adversary, and Spanish rule prevailed. In 1567, the city of
Hey, 67.
So this is the capital of Venezuela to this day.
Christianity and exported produce into
The
way society was organized was far
So
they got colonized by the Spanish from Europe.
And natives treated little better than slaves. It was clear things in all of the Spanish-run Americas needed to change, and they did. But the Bourbon reforms were not good enough.
George
By the early
Washington.
19th century, the colonies of the Spanish Empire, unhappy and resentful, erupted into revolution. The Venezuelan War of Independence began in 1810, a struggle that was disrupted by a devastating earthquake. Thereafter, Simón Bolívar spearheaded the campaign
Famous guy.
operation. The
That's all about
pro-Spain
him.
royalists struck back and reconquered, but Bolívar did not give up, receiving military aid from Haiti and thousands of British and Irish volunteers, tough, hardened veterans of the Napoleonic Wars. Bolívar relaunched the campaign, crossing the Andes Mountains like a reborn Hannibal, and leading his forces to victory in the crucial Battle of Boyacá. That took place in Colombia. Back in Venezuela, Bolívar achieved a resounding victory over the Spaniards, but it didn't stop there. He pushed on to secure the independence of other nations such as Peru and Ecuador. Of course, none of this was as neat and simple as it sounds, but the Spanish Empire lost most of its American colonies, and the country of Bolivia is named after Bolivar, as is his homeland, Venezuela. But his dream of a unified Latin America, a federation of republics such as in the United States, remained unfulfilled. Anyway, the following years saw Venezuela led by an authoritarian conservative government that administered affairs quite ably and oversaw economic growth. An authoritarian liberal government followed, and slavery was abolished, as was capital punishment. But economic mismanagement began to bankrupt the nation. Tensions between the parties led to civil war, in which around 100,000 people, 1/10 of the population, died. And all this so a piece of paper could be solved. This splendidly bearded fellow served as president 3 times, and brought about a number of reforms, as well as the introduction of railways in 1883. A few years later, the United States was compelled to intervene in a disagreement between Britain and Venezuela over disputed land. And the presidency of this man caused a lot of trouble. The country had amassed a bunch of foreign debts, and he said, "We're not going to pay." So Britain and Germany imposed a naval blockade upon Venezuela, which that country lacked the power to dissolve. After another crisis, he was overthrown by his own vice president. Meanwhile, oil was discovered in Venezuela. Lots and lots of oil. This provided the country's corrupt
Economic,
dictators with immense wealth,
economic
and calls
and
to diversify the economy were consistently ignored. The state of things can be summed up with the novelist Romulo Gallegos. In 1947, he became the country's first freely elected president and was kicked out in a military coup only a few months later. The following year, Venezuela made the international moves necessary to establish what would become OPEC, an organization of oil-producing nations. After the deposing of this guilty-faced
Starting to get more modern.
the country received a democracy championing leader, whose example continued with succeeding presidents as the country underwent some much-needed stability. The oil crisis of the 1970s saw Venezuela cash in big and spend. But by the
they made a lot of
1980s,
money off of
Venezuela's
oil. They
economic
got rich.
situation started looking grim. Even though the president looked pretty happy,
So,
too much borrowing, too much assuming that the petrodollar would stay high, too much dependence on oil. Things got bad. Riots, protests.
The economy crashed. Hugo Chavez, this guy's really famous. We'll cover him more later.
A left-wing populist who pushed sweeping changes.
That's very famous.
To benefit the common people, and which instead
The economy got really bad.
whilst corruption remained unmitigated. Following his death in
Here's the guy we're talking about today. This is the guy who came after Hugo Chavez. This is who we're talking about today.
Financial calamity, which continued to plummet to further lows.
So things got really bad in Venezuela.
Kept winning elections despite the protests and the millions who had fled the nation. A 2024 UN report
Pay
found
attention.
that over 80%
Mexico.
of the country was living in poverty, a massive setback for what was once one of the richest Latin American nations. At the present moment, Venezuela, with its medium level of human development, also suffers high crime and a poor human rights standing. Much work and much reform, of course, will be required to set this beautiful nation onto a more hopeful and prosperous path. And let's hope that begins soon. So all the best to Venezuela, but as for me, it's bye for now. Bye-bye!
Okay, so that was just a little video to give us some backdrop. But is there anything we can take from that would go to Spice Tea?
Ice.
What were a couple things that we can take away from that? What was one big thing they mentioned?
Economic,
Let's one at a time. Oh.
economically.
Okay, so we're gonna say economics. Okay, what in that video was connected to the economics?
Oil.
Oil. Did they make a lot of money off of oil?
Yes, but
Yeah,
then,
they
but
did.
but
that,
then,
that would be economics. Their economy was oil based. It still is. Economics. They were dead. So the economy was very good at one point, right? And then what happened?
The oil incident.
So the oil incident happened. The petrol crashed. So their economy got very bad, and they became very poor. So that's something you can put. Venezuela's economy is very poor right now.
for what? For which one?
Oh, there's a lot. Okay, he gave us a good one. At the end there, they gave us a statistic. How much of the country was in poverty? A whole lot. Did anyone remember the exact number they gave?
90%.
It was a little less. It was 80%. 80% of the whole country was in poverty. We know what poverty is?
Like
Very poor. Very, very poor. Like very, very poor.
Like poor
So-
than poor.
So while they make a lot of money off of oil, the rich only get that in that country, okay? So what does this tell us? So that's E. What does that tell us about politically about Venezuela? If the rich are rich and the average people are very poor, what would we call that politically? What would we call Venezuela's government? Would it be
Corrupt.
Right? Was there a lot of corruption they mentioned in the video?
Yeah.
You can put that. Put Venezuela's government is corrupt. Do they have fair elections there?
No.
No. So we could call that a dictatorship. They have a dictator in power. So Hugo Chavez was replaced by Maduro. Was Maduro a dictator?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something we could put politically. What about I? Interaction with the environment. Anything we could say with that? There was a lot of trash everywhere. A very, very poor country, a lot of trash. Just right next to April.
But I.
For I. So I would be interactions with the environment. What's another thing that might be tied with economics? Where do they get all their money from? Oil.
Yeah.
Would that be an interaction with the environment?
Yeah.
Do they just get that oil for nothing? They have to interact with it, right? So that would be interaction with the Diego. So there's a Google Classroom, twice T worksheet. Okay, so that's what we got from that first video, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the second video. I'll be up.
Okay.
Jeremiah was here, right? I saw him.
Yeah, he was here.
So this is real footage from Venezuela.
Oh yeah, they were bombing right.
So in case I didn't make it clear, so the incident that happened was the United States
Bombed.
Eyes up here, Susan.
Susan.
Okay, so this is the incident that happened. Pay attention. So the United States went into Venezuela and captured and
Maduro.
arrested the president Maduro. We saw him in the video earlier.
Yeah.
They went in here, they raided Venezuela, they grabbed the president, and they then brought him back to New York City to stand on trial. Because there's a video that the article will talk about this, but the reason why they did this is because Venezuela has been an adversary to the United States, and the president was a wanted man in the United States for basically drug cartels.
Oh my
So,
god.
A lot of the drugs that come into the United States come through Venezuela.
Oh.
They have this thing called the shadow fleet. That's not what we're going to talk about today, but yeah, this is what the whole incident happened. We'll talk, some video will talk about that later in the article will, but I just want to get that. So this is real footage from that raid. These are just normal people like you and me. And this is in the Capitol. They just came, they flew in right in and just started taking them. Me help out the other, okay? So just watch it. There's not much more in this one. So just do it. Give it to it. So look, these are the helicopters. So this is United States Special Forces. They're just flying straight through the city. There's all the helicopters. They're flying a special forces team called Delta Force, which is the Army Special Forces. They're gonna fly right into a Venezuelan army base where Maduro's at. They're gonna just drop in, grab him, and leave. All that for one man. He's a very powerful man.
And the United States is not to mess with.
Sir, can I lower the vaccine? We're just about to see people get bombed.
Yeah, we're bombing people. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll get your phone. I'll get that phone.
Hey, bro, you need a Chrome back.
This video is kind of hard to see in this, but it's just basically helicopters and stuff. So this is in the city. So what do y'all think they're bombing? Oh, we got a.
So you can't.
Literally the base that one person is at right now.
So, well, they're bombing a bunch of different places. What do you think they're bombing?
Military base.
The military stuff. So, if they're gonna fly helicopters over safely, what do they have to do?
Bombing.
They have to take out the air defense stuff, something that can't shoot them down. So that's what you're seeing. So Army reserves, military bases, that's where they're hitting right now. So no civilians were actually harmed in the raid. Only Venezuelan military personnel were.
That's tragic.
But yeah, this just happened in the city. These are just recordings of someone on their phone.
Mama huevo.
Yeah, what language are they speaking?
Spanish. Or
And why are they speaking Spanish?
because it's in Venezuela.
Because that's what they speak in Venezuela. Yeah. They speak Spanish there.
Imagine being near that explosion.
Yeah, this is what I want to show you. I mean, like, these are just normal people. Imagine this happening in San Antonio. You know, this is what it's like to be under the attack of someone. You just get the real reactions. And you have no idea.
Where the sirens? Don't they should have sirens or something like the rain sirens or whatever?
Well, it happened so quickly. I mean, they came in. I think the whole operation was like 2 hours. You hear all the bombing.
They were
It sound like fireworks.
were like five planes like bombing the
Yeah, we're gonna watch a video after this that is gonna show the planes that they used for this operation. We're gonna see a video after this that shows the U.S.'s perspective of what they were doing.
So, what we're doing is we're filling out this. You can do it. So the worksheet we're going to be doing every Wednesday. So today we're covering stuff like that. So as we go along, we're just filling out. We're only doing ET today, so you don't have to do the.
Huh?
We're just filling it out with stuff that happens in the video that's related to it. So if P is political, I is environment, E is economic, and T is technology. We're just trying to find things in the videos that are connected to that.
I'll pause it and I'll explain it.
It's a Google Classroom.
So he's recording on his phone.
I'm pretty sure the rain.
Oh, look at this one. These are just people driving when it happened.
Also, like the ones that were really close.
These are just normal people.
No, like the ones that were really close.
Yeah, they were just driving when it happened. They started recording. I mean, this is the reality of what it can happen, you know. And there are places around the world that they deal with this stuff every day.
I wonder if that's how
Shit.
Yeah, there are lots of places.
I'm
You go to
on.
Ukraine. We'll cover Ukraine, Russia at some point this year. But there are plenty of Ukrainians that just again. Russia, Ukraine. About, I think we're going on 3 years.
My phone phone up?
3 years, about 3. It's been going on. It will probably go on for the rest of this year. I think so.
So it's funny whenever like Spanish people try to speak English.
Yeah, well, it's we mentioned that before, but what was that? Lingua franca, which is just
Spanglish.
kind of intermixed languages with each other.
Sí, mamá. Para allá, amiga.
I mean, these are just honest reactions. It's kind of hard to see some of this, but it's just.
Yeah, it's because it's at night.
No, here's more. It's kind of hard to see with the glare, but those are helicopters.
Yeah, I see them.
So this is those helicopters from a different angle. This is the special forces. They're coming in. They're gonna go in to the Venezuelan army base where the compound is. They're gonna just drop right in. They're gonna grab them and leave. And so all these explosions you're seeing, these are like army depots, anti-air, they have to clear the way for those helicopters to fly over. So that's what the whole operation is.
Yeah, it's right there saying that they got to the house on time to see that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you know Spanish. There's a weird auto dub thing that I don't want to do. So, there's a. So I think these people were up in the mountains. This is this whole city.
Oh my God.
You can tell where they cut power. Or they cut power in certain parts of the city. So this is probably where a lot of the military stuff is in the city. So all that area is cut off from power. Because they have this is the capital. This is where the government is. So they put a lot of military protection in the capital. So remember, they need to fly in, grab him from his house in the military base, the Venezuelan army base.
He lives in
grab
the
him and
army?
come out. So they're hitting all the defenses. Oh yeah, this is the big one. So the reason why this one's so big is because they hit an ammo depot. Ammo. So like gunpowder, missiles, explosive stuff. That's why we're getting a big explosion. So that's just some real stuff. That's real footage from what happened. So let's talk about the spice tea from that. So there's not a ton of stuff because that's just straightforward. But what can we take? What were some things we saw in that video that would be spice tea? Technology. What did we see? What technology did we see in it? We saw the helicopters, right? What were those helicopters doing?
Bombing the defensive systems.
So the helicopter, not the helicopters, that would be the airplanes. Airplanes with bombs would be it too. So the airplanes were clearing air defenses, right? We saw them hitting military bases. The helicopters were flying in with special forces to pick them up. So both of those would be examples of technology we saw. Okay, so you can put that for tea and spice tea. Susan, you can put that for technology for spice tea. So that's just a couple of things we could do there. That's the only main one. Is there any other ones y'all can think we could put? Nothing really? Social? We could put one for social. We heard the reactions where they were gonna do it. So we're not doing social today, so we don't have to, but that could be a social one.
Wait, for technology, I could put bombs like.
Bombs from planes, yeah.
Okay.
Bombs from planes.
Wait, which one?
Helicopters. For technology, yeah. For T. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next video. Feel free to so we kind of get it. While you're watching the video, if you see something that would apply to any of these, any of the spice teas, social, political, just feel free to add it. I'm gonna help y'all out with it, but you can feel free to add stuff as you go.
Sure.
So this is the U.S.'s perspective of it.
4 months,
Maduro.
U.S. spies have been monitoring Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's every move. Then in early December, a mission called Operation Absolute
So in
Resolve
December, how many months ago? That was not too long
It
ago.
was the
They've been
result
planning this.
of months of meticulous planning and rehearsals, which even included elite U.S. troops creating an exact full-size replica of Maduro's Caracas fortress to practice their entry routes.
So those are
With the
U.S.
precise details set, top military officials waited for the optimal conditions to launch. They wanted to maximize the element of surprise. There was a false start 4 days earlier when U.S. President Donald Trump gave approval
Absolute result. That's what the
orders from
operation
the
was called.
president to begin the mission finally came from Friday.
He's
What
pissed.
followed was a 2-hour and
They didn't
20-minute
even
mission
do it.
by air, land, and sea that stunned many in Washington and around the world.
So some of the footage we saw.
That only the United States could do. It required
Why does
the
Donald
utmost
Trump look high?
precision and integration
Oh,
within
yeah.
our joint force.
Because he's old, bro.
Word integration does
He's the
not
oldest president.
explain the sheer complexity.
He's like 75 or 80.
And actually, Joe Biden's over there. Never mind.
So precise, it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single.
That's what we saw,
purpose,
right? We saw a lot of
to get
coordinated strikes all at once.
force
Yeah.
into downtown
And they came straight from the US. That's how close
maintaining
Venezuela is.
tactical surprise.
These are some of the
More
planes.
than 150 aircraft, including
150 aircraft.
fighter jets, and reconnaissance planes.
That's
were
technology.
deployed
We
through
put
the
that.
course of the night. U.S. cut the power in Caracas before the mission began. Then loud explosions were heard in Caracas at about 2 a.m. local time. Videos showed a convoy of helicopters flying at low altitude over Venezuela's capital as smoke rose from detonations. As strikes rang out around Caracas, U.S.
So,
forces made their way into the city. They included members of the elite Delta Force, the U.S. military's top special mission unit. They were heavily armed and even carried a blowtorch in case they had to cut through the metal doors of Maduro's safe house. The troops arrived
you
at
could put
Maduro's
Donald Trump in
location shortly after the strikes began at 2:01 a.m. local time. The troops took fire when they arrived, and one of the U.S. helicopters was hit but was still able to fly. In Maduro's compound, as elite U.S. troops flooded in, Trump said the Venezuelan president attempted to flee to a safe room.
These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement
We gotta listen to them.
put them in a very ready position.
He can't even read any saying.
Many ships out in the sea.
He plays a big part in it.
Were coming. So they were in a ready, what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated.
Incapacitated.
Trump did not follow the mission from the White House Situation Room. Instead, he was surrounded by his advisors at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida, where he watched a live stream of the operation flanked by CIA Director John Ratcliffe and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, there's some other good ones like the attack on Soleimani,
Some of the incident in the past.
the
Oh,
attack on
yeah,
al-Baghdadi,
ask for the paper copy.
obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation
That was last
known
year.
as
You gotta remember
Midnight
that we-
Hammer,
We bombed the Iranian nuclear.
all perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and
Saw that,
women of our
right? We bombed
military
all those
working
places.
with U.S. law
Yeah,
enforcement
yeah, yeah.
successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night.
Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were
What do
placed
they look like?
aboard
What do you
the
think they-
USS
Why do you think they have
which stopped in the
earmuffs over
US
his eyes?
So they can't hear them.
The base
No, it's so he can't. He doesn't know where he's going. He can't hear them talk. He doesn't know where
It
he's
is
going.
home to the notorious detention camp.
So they took him to New York
There,
City.
Maduro and his
So he got
wife
dropped out of New
transferred
York
to the
City.
plane,
But so
which landed
when they're
at
talking,
Stewart
you
Air
can't hear
National
the
Base
like what
in
people
New
are
York
saying
on Saturday evening.
because it's to protect the agents that did it, and so that if he does get released at some point, he doesn't get secrets.
He can't even understand English.
Yeah, he does.
He was bad?
That was President Maduro.
I thought he was good.
Bro.
That's what we're figuring out today.
I know,
That-
okay.
Were you not paying
No, no,
attention?
It's okay. Look, There's people that say he's good and bad. It's not like, we're gonna watch the
Dude.
video
I
about
know
this.
he's a bad guy. I just know they're bombing these people.
That's what we're gonna talk
And
about
so
right now.
neighboring
Here's
countries
the-
last
here's the next
month
video.
condemned the operation and appealed to the United Nations. In Colombia, protesters gathered outside the U.S. embassy. Let's bring in ABC's Matt Rivers, who is in
Matt had a good
Bogota,
one.
Colombia, with more. Matt, thanks for joining us. I know you've covered this part of the world for many years. What can you tell us about the reaction inside Venezuela
So
now?
here's the reaction of people. Countries and people.
These are 10 states, you know, you've got an entire country wondering what exactly is going to happen next. We know that Maduro has been taken out.
Remember,
but a
keep
lot of
spicy
members
in
of the
mind.
circle are still in charge. It does appear that the regime is still in charge inside that country. So we're a long way away from figuring out what the end game here is. Even listening to Donald Trump talking about how the United States of America is going to, quote, run Venezuela. Well, what does that mean?
So
There's a huge
the United States is
detail right
occupying
now.
Venezuela.
Venezuelans are trying to look at the situation. They don't have all of the facts with which to come to a final determination. I think for so many Venezuelans also, but this is an incredibly
It's-
complex
It's
issue,
too,
right?
when we read the article later, it'll go
Many,
into
many
it, but it's
Venezuelans,
for,
the
he was-
Maduro regime
Maduro was a
represents
wanted man in the
for
United
their
States
country,
for
a regime
corruption.
that stole from
He
their
was
country,
basically,
took money
a lot of
away
these drugs
from
that come into the
families
US,
that-
illegally,
Oh, so he was like bad.
he was working with the cartels to get drugs. That's the point of the thing. And also, remember what we saw earlier about how Venezuela is,
Years
there's
about
a lot of poverty and a lot of
there
people.
are very good memories about the painful period of colonialism that this part of the world went through. They don't want to see the United States simply come in and run things here. But people remember the Maduro regime and what it stood for so many families. Remember, this is a police state. People were being taken off the streets. You couldn't protest.
Why can't they
Really
like
political
me?
prisoners who
Okay,
left
just
jails.
cry.
These are families that were torn apart by this regime. So when we're talking about this issue as a political one, I think we're also
Political one?
see the forest for the trees when it comes to ordinary Venezuelans. You can think two things at the same time, right? With on the one hand, Maduro regime for many was a really bad thing, and they are very happy to see him go. On the other hand,
You said what?
they're
Political?
concerned about the future and what it means for their sovereignty.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matt, if we take a wider view here, what are leaders and people around the world, what are they saying and how are they responding?
Well, it kind of depends on who you ask. I mean, where I am in Colombia, you've got the president of Mexico, the leadership of Cuba, typically more leftist-leaning governments right now. They're, of course, condemning what has happened here. You've seen protests pop up around the world in major European cities against some of this U.S. action. So there's no question there are people who are saying the United States flouted the rule of law here and that this should have never happened, like Maduro or not. But on the other hand, you have so many people around the world, and I'm thinking specifically of the Venezuelan diaspora. You've got 8 million, roughly, refugees who have fled the country next to the water.
8 million refugees who
Over the
left
last years,
Venezuela.
who are
In
cheering
fact,
this team
more
into
than-
the streets and are thrilled about the action that the United
If
States
they're
has taken.
fleeing the
So
country,
this
does that
reaction
probably sound like it's a good
what
country to
has
live in?
been
No.
one of the most stunning
It was a
events that we have
dictatorship.
seen,
Over
the United
80%
States
of people are
undertake
poverty.
in a policy way in the last 25 years.
Yeah, their feelings will definitely depend on what comes in the days ahead as well. Matt Rivers for us, thank you.
So we got one more video. This is gonna show you, this is from direct, actual refugees, the people who fled Venezuela over the past couple of decades.
We've been a few days explained in Miami, there's optimism and celebrations.
Across South Florida, Venezuelans are erupted in celebration.
There's a real refugee from Venezuela.
Hundreds poured into the streets in Doral, where 40% of residents are of Venezuelan descent.
Oh my god, I'm gonna start crying. It is pretty awesome.
We met Andrea Ramos, who fled Venezuela in 2016, one of nearly a million Venezuelans who have settled in the U.S.
We've been disappointed so many times before that it is just like hard to believe that it is actually happening.
Roughly 8 million Venezuelans, more than a quarter of the country's population, has fled in the last 10 years,
What do you mean by
driven out by economic collapse and political instability. Venezuelans at the border with Colombia and Chile. But in Caracas, the mood was far more sober. Long lines for food, medicine, and
In
basic
Venezuela, they're literally
services
waiting in line for food.
as people braced for an uncertain future.
Tiempos difíciles.
Hard times are coming, but I hope it will bring significant change to Venezuela. This woman said, while some Maduro's supporters took to the streets
These are people
to
that support
protest his
Maduro.
capture. We are asking for the liberation of our president, this woman says. Back in Florida, 25-year-old Christopher Moreno
hopes Maduro's arrest could lead to a better future in Venezuela. Sorry. It's just a feeling, I can explain it. We make a life here because we had to, not because we wanted to. So, we really want to go back. Cristian Benavides.
So, those last couple of videos, what were some of the things that we kind of understand about the situation? Did a lot of people dislike it? A lot of people like it?
They're like
Kind of get.
like in the
A lot of
middle.
people liked it. Well, there's some people who didn't like it. A couple, right? It's kind of mixed, okay?
So this is why a bunch of people like Trump.
A lot of people, there's a lot of people who really approve of this. You saw the Venezuelans. A lot of people left. These are people who literally left Venezuela because it was so bad. So of course they'd be happy that the dictator that made their lives really bad for them to have to leave. They'd be happy about it. But what's wrong with the situation? What would you say is something that would why people don't really like the situation about the U.S. doing this?
Because like the structure of the
Well, that's true. Do they? The United States is a different country than Venezuela, right? What right to impose on Venezuela, a different country? Right? So they could just force that, but they didn't. Did they ask for permission from anyone else to do that? No,
No.
they just did it. What if the United States had a problem with Mexico? What would stop them from just, we don't like the president of Mexico. Let's just go take her. Would that be good?
No.
No. Obviously, Venezuela is a bad country. A lot of people left it for a reason. So maybe it's fine. But what if we get into a situation where it's something that's not fine? What if it's like Mexico? What if it's Colombia? Colombia